So I think from our priorities, my priorities in Camden, I think are remarkably similar probably to when I joined the cabinet. I think the knotty issues that we've got and we need to tackle, unfortunately, remain the same. I think we've made some progress, but there's certainly a lot more to do. So first and foremost, the issue which comes up time and time again on the doorstep that we hear is the realities of the housing crisis in Camden and central London. Property prices, rental prices, it's a real challenge. The thing that makes Camden great, we often say, is our mixed community. It's an incredibly mixed place. Huge amounts of people from all sorts of backgrounds and all sorts of ages. And I think fundamentally that's under threat because of the unaffordability of housing. We've got 6,000 families now on our waiting list, our housing waiting list for council homes. We've got significant and increasing demand on temporary accommodation. And we, now the kind of measures due to COVID are kind of relaxed. People being threatened with eviction in the private rented sector, and rents not really being affordable, particularly with kind of freezes on a London housing allowance. So we desperately need to increase the amount of affordable housing in Camden. Obviously, that's a huge issue when it comes to the development. And the council's own regeneration programme, as you've mentioned, Toby, is ambitious, but I think that ambition's dialed up a notch. We want to be delivering even more council and living rent homes and additional homes, as well as replacement. Secondly, as you said, we've seen fantastic growth in the borough in the last decade, real innovation, the Knowledge Quarter, which is a kind of jewel in the crown of Camden. We're very proud of it. I'm very proud of it in the borough. But we know that the Knowledge Quarter needs to be nurtured and supported, and crucially, it needs to really give back to the local community to be a key part of addressing those local economic and social inequalities that we see. We've got more jobs in the borough than we've got residents. So, in theory, there's enough jobs to go around. But yet still we've got kind of long-term unemployment amongst our residents. We've seen, due to COVID, increasing rates of universal credit applications, as other boroughs have, and particularly young people. We're very concerned about disrupted end to their education, a kind of delayed entry into the labour market, and the scarring effect that has, and the kind of low pay, no pay kind of cycles that many of our residents are in. The cost of living crisis is really biting at the moment, as has been reported in the kind of media. People are very concerned about it, about fuel prices, about the cost of living, and decent paid, good jobs are a kind of top priority for me and for the borough. And we think the Knowledge Quarter has the potential. It's generating new employment opportunities. We've had a real healthy sector there that's still growing. I think a couple of weeks ago, Google kind of announced taking on another significant office in Camden, over in Holborn, which is a great kind of testament to kind of confidence in central London and in Camden. And we want to work with partners like that to really ensure that local people are in those thousands of new jobs as well. And then lastly, kind of on that central London question, the economy is changing, central London is changing. We've seen significant kind of flux. I'm still quite buoyant, quite positive about the future for central London and for Camden. I'm not kind of fatalistic about it. I think there's huge potential there, but I think it requires change, and it requires us kind of working together to support kind of the and regeneration of central London, of Camden's West End, and of our key really growth areas. There's a number of key opportunity areas across the borough, from West Hampstead, Kentish Town, down to Holborn, and I think there's potential to unlock there. So I think harnessing that in the next decade is going to be a vital task for me and potentially my successor at some point as well.
On that last point, are you talking about sort of fairly large-scale regeneration programs? And of course, you have the exemplar of them all. People are almost bored of quoting King's Cross now. Is it that sort of approach that you're looking to take, or is it more smaller scale schemes?
I think it's a mix. So there's some significant private sector opportunity sites in the borough. So over in West Hampstead, over in Kentish Town, you know, significant, really, you know, underdeveloped areas, you know, huge car parks, huge kind of single story industrial estates right in the heart of Camden, you know, huge potential on the Regis Road industrial estate in Kentish Town, for example. And I think we've always been quite active. You know, we're not a kind of passive planning authority. We do want to shape potential growth. We've got real, you know, unlike many planning authorities, we're really fortunate. We've still got a very significant planning team, planning policy team that actively kind of create planning frameworks, and we've created planning visions for both of those areas, as well in Camden Street industrial area in the heart of Camden, just north of King's Cross. You know, you step out, as you say, King's Cross, huge, amazing change that's taken place. A couple, you know, 100 metres away is Camden Street, where you've got kind of still significant car park, single story industrial space. And it's a world away from that. There's huge potential. The council's both landowner there, and also we have a role in the planning authority as well in that site. So I think it's a mix, really. The Regis Road industrial site, I think if you lay it end to end, it pretty much maps in a kind of similar geography to King's Cross. Actually, it's a similar sized area. And then there's kind of more smaller scale ambitions. Actually, how do we support local high streets to change? I think we've kind of got an active high streets programme, working with local communities on that. And I think in central London, it's kind of a, you know, Camden's West End, Holborn, is kind of a different proposition. It's a very built, developed area. It's actually kind of how do we work with landowners and partners to curate, to improve the public realm, to improve the experience of visitors and local residents in central London. So it kind of remains vibrant.
But massive growth to come. And how do you, just going back to the top of your list and what you were saying about the need for affordable housing, are you concerned about this sort of concept of gentrification and how all this growth is going to be seen by local residents, and how you kind of integrate them into the benefits of the growth?
I think 100%. I think, you know, development is an incredibly contested environment. You know, I think, you know, planning, regeneration are not kind of easy areas to work in. I think people have very strong views about it. People are very deeply affected by the decisions, which are very long term in terms of their impacts. I think the first is that you have a huge potential to transform an area. It's an amazing opportunity, I think, this role. I mean, in terms of you know, gentrification, I think my view has always been really kind of the proof's in the pudding. If we're genuinely delivering high quantums of genuinely affordable housing, that to me is completely the opposite of gentrification. It's enabling people from all walks of life to stay into the borough, to, you know, have families and be able to stay in Camden, which is crucial. So, you know, I think you can see from what's proposed and what's developed, whether it is contributing to keeping kind of mixed, vibrant community, whether you're delivering that kind of community infrastructure that a successful place needs, or you're just kind of asset stripping, building high value homes, not building community infrastructure. And I don't think we're doing that in Camden. I think we have high standards. We hold partners and developers to, you know, high conditions, and our planning policies, you know, are quite stringent and are quite demanding, and I do appreciate that. I mean, I think, unfortunately, you know, the dynamics of the planning process don't make for good dialogue. You know, they don't bring communities together. They don't allow kind of deliberation and consideration. I think what from our perspective, what we've tried to do, I think, is around that, as I said, create planning visions, which is an opportunity to draw people into a conversation about the future of an area. We've used kind of models like citizens' assemblies, actually, in Euston, in Gospel Oak and Haverstock, where lots of council-led development is taking place. We've had citizens' assemblies who've kind of debated and chewed over these issues. You know, how do we prioritise? What do we need? What level of development do we have? And what does that enable? So, you know, I think that's teasing out some of the opportunities, but I think certainly there's probably potential to do more of that as well.